Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second segment where we are graced by Mr. Malusi Mtetwa's presence on the Parapodcast platform. And it's a continuation of his research of the work that he has done. And we're just going to be asking more about his research on work stress and the tools that are available for emergency care providers and on the findings that he found on his research. But before we ask more onto this research, I just want to go to his dedication page of his research, Mr. Mtetwa, is that as part of the things that you've written on the dedication, there's like four paragraphs or statements that you've made. I just want to ask you, your research is not even related to gender-based violence, but on your research, you said that I also dedicate this work to the victims of gender-based violence globally. Females are slaughtered by their partners. I hope these things get better and GBV ends. Why add gender based violence, especially if it's not related to your research, your emergency care providers, your fellow colleagues, and all of that?
Uh, I'm a qualitative researcher. I'm a person that talks about feelings.
Yeah.
Look, I am open to other forms of research too, but at that time, when I wrote that, I had focused mostly on qualitative research, and also, you know, I'm born of four sisters, and I have a mother too. I think if you listen to even now, you listen to the news in South Africa, there won't be a day where you don't hear anything about rape or killing of a female person. I know that men do die, but also when the female does, it's sometimes because of their partner and stuff like that. So it's gender based violence that is against females. So it's something that is also close to my heart that I feel is just not fair, you know? Uh, it's not fair that a person, because of their gender, can be abused. It's not fair. Now, I'm only not only referring to females; it can be any other type of a gender specification that you have. It's not fair that you are judged. It's not fair that you are abused as a person who is dark skinned. It's not fair that you are abused because you're a person that is white. It can be anything. It's just not fair. I decided that at that time, gender based violence was in my heart and I wanted to dedicate to that. It would be interesting to also focus in that space of research and see if there's any changes that we can bring. I think also, I think when I was doing my interviews for the research that I did, there was some cases that were a bit gruesome, cases where there were reports of rapes happening to clinicians that are working in the ambulance, being targeted and all those things. Just things that you don't want to hear. So, as much as my research was something else, that part too was also important to me. And I felt that the page where I can just write about whatever that I want will be there.
Okay. I think it's quite commendable that something so profound that you dedicated to women, and coming from a country where GBV is quite high, every day you hear something happening to women. We're not saying that it doesn't go both ways, where men get also subjected to gender-based violence, but most of the time it's male to female gender-based violence, and it's sad that it's still happening. And I hope that it changes to where we don't have any gender-based violence against women. I don't know about Elias in Namibia. Is it how's GBV? Um,
Uh,
Before you enter, I just wanted to say that also these cases where we go to gender-based violence cases, they question our ethics. Where you get dispatched to a case where there's a victim who's been assaulted. How do you navigate those things? It affects you emotionally, mentally, because as you said, Malusi, you've got sisters, you've got cousins who are females. They might have boyfriends or husbands that might even been um, assaulting them or subjecting them to some form of violence. But yeah, Elias, in Namibia, how
Yeah, I know it does happen, and I know few people have been affected by it, and I think it's not one that I've been to as a clinician, but sometimes you can relate. Obviously, some just because Namibia is not big, you might know some of the people that are being affected, or people that are part of the chain of the people that are affected. So I definitely think that it's something that we should speak out on, and I don't think it should be encouraged. And I think if you witness it as a clinician, you must step up somehow to protect these people, because sometimes these people are in that circle of that they just do not see that the person is doing something wrong, or sometimes they're afraid to report it themselves. So I think you should somehow try and step up and protect these people. I was just gonna add to the acknowledgement as well, and it says here that you never pictured yourself doing a master's degree, um, and you've thought of giving up at some point as well. But it's the people that encouraged you, with simple statements like "I believe in you, Malusi." Um, yeah, wow. I'm glad you never gave up, because we would not have had the para podcast today, would we?
Definitely, I think it's important. It's important to show people that you believe in them. If you see something that is good about a person, let them know. It pushes them. I think when I was teaching as a BA instructor, there were a lot of people that were employed by organizations that had different positions. So they'll come to do basic life support or just first aid. And then they'll say, "Well, Lucy, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You should be somewhere else doing something different." And then I'll say, "But why are you saying that?" And they'll come repetitively because I guess there's something that they saw that I did not see at that time, but maybe the way I presented themselves, the way I taught, they thought that I would be of much value elsewhere. Funny they still do say it now.
And you're on the road.
Yeah,
Do they want
sometimes
you
they
to?
do.
Uh,
yeah. But thanks, guys, for sharing that. I just want to ask before we move on to the themes and findings of your research, Mr. Mtetwa. Hey, I like calling you that today, being formal. I want to ask quickly is that just a trick question? What is a male version of a feminist called? Because we just spoke about GBV, someone who has a strong belief and advocacy for gender equality, particularly in support of the women's rights and against system sexism. Sexism.
Now, to answer your question, you can go back exactly to that definition. There is no gender in the person that believes in that. So
Okay.
anyone can be. I mean, we just need to believe in people.
Yeah.
There's something that I want to say to add to that, Tulani. You see, we as humans, we what makes a difference between us and animals is that we have an emotion. Now, once you let your emotions control you, somehow you then lose your being the best human that you can be. So a man becoming angry and decide that now I can't talk, I'm gonna go physical. That's when you move towards being an animal.
a
That's my
monkey
theory.
brain.
Yeah, you're not thinking now. You're not thinking now. You are acting physically like animals do. So the trick is to always try and maintain your being a human. Try and be a human all the time. If you see that now you can't control your emotions, step out of it. You know, people like that end up in prison or they start wars, end up being shot. So our mouths, women are good in talking sometimes. If you feel that now you can't manage the talking, step out of it. Maintain your being human. Don't move towards being an animal. Because like any man has it in them, we're physically stronger. So we don't need to take advantage of that. Yeah. You need to just be humans, step away. Once your emotions, whether you can't control them, Okay, be of a sober mind until you can then proceed. Yeah.
Elias, what do you say? Do you agree?
Ah, no,
Sorry to put you in
definitely.
the spotlight.
No. I definitely agree with the monkey brain that if it takes over, you can't think, and if you can't think, you can't reason, and
Yeah.
you end up doing whatever comes to your mind first. But also what they say, you can't pour out of an empty cup. So what's inside, deep down, is what comes out of you. If deep down you are a very rational and very compassionate human being, what's gonna come out of you is love. And if what's deep down within you is anger and frustration, that's what's gonna come out. So I think that, with that being said as well, I think there is a lot of elements that come to it. But yeah, let's get to his research.
I think the two of you, they won't take you to men's conference. You are playing. But it's good that you advocate. Yeah. So just to answer that question, there is no the word feminist is not gender specific. Whether you're a male or female, you can still be a feminist, especially if you advocate for the women's rights. Now, Melusi, just to touch deep into your research, is that the research is titled the use and effectiveness of tools designed to reduce emergency medical care personnel workplace stress. Now, as part of the themes that you discovered, the themes and findings, the questions that we've drafted or that we worked on is that your research identified community violence as a major source of stress for emergency care providers. Can you talk? Can you talk about some of the most surprising or disturbing experiences shared during the interviews by your participants?
Doing this research was fascinating. I think it was a good experience. At some point my supervisor suggested that we write a paper about doing qualitative research about your experience while you're interviewing people.
Mhm.
So community violence was one of the themes, and I think at some point I didn't really appreciate the issues that are out there, especially in places in Johannesburg and the townships that are around. So basically, there will be areas where it's known that it's dangerous. So it's known that it's dangerous, therefore, the ambulance can't go there anytime. So, in order to do that, they will have to um, go to a specific spot, wait over there, and whoever called an ambulance will try to meet the person there. I think that's just also inhumane on its own, because you wouldn't have called an ambulance if you have transport to take the person to hospital. Now, the way that our society has been damaged is like serious. It's bad. I mean, the ambulance is there to assist the people, but now they can't access that because some people feel that they need to attack the people in the ambulance. That normally automatically happened in cases where the ambulance has been attacked before, where people have um, a genuine reason why they shouldn't go there. I remember when I used to work for the same organization that I was assessing, I remember in the morning parade, they would mention that in this area, there's been an attack of the ambulance. Be careful when you go there. I mean, that just doesn't happen anywhere. I'm sure there are places where it happened, but that's not right. It's just wrong. It shouldn't be happening. I mean, a person that thinks and uses logic would know that an ambulance is not there to harm you. If your friend stabs you while you were stealing or whatever that we're doing, the person who's going to come and help you is the ambulance. But you attack the ambulance too. I'm assuming that it's the bad people that attack ambulances, not good people. The fact that the government, because what happens is people will be angry with the government system. If you remember, there was a period where there were a lot of riots where people complain about community services. So people will start banning even schools sometimes, even clinics sometimes, even hitting the ambulances because they believe that these are the resources of the government.
And they believe that destroying them will solve the problem.
I think that is stupid. I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Elias, do you want to add, or we can
Uh,
ask continue?
No, I think I had few more questions, but yeah, continue. Then I'll ask my next one.
Okay. Now, the second one of the themes is that there was a mention of that there's a disconnect between BLS trained staff as well as ALS trained staff on the demands on scene. How do you think the mismatch contributes to the moral injury and or the professional burnout?
I think what happens is if people have a lot of information, if you know a lot,
Yeah.
you tend to see a lot of things that other people don't see
Hmm.
because you know a lot. Um, let's say a an ECP in the South African context is trained to look at the social components of the disease, the effect. So you're using what the biosocial and psychosocial means of assessing the situation. The social part will also affect you because you can see that you are helping a person and you can't fix the social part. So basically, what I mean is those are the challenges that they would have because they can see a lot of other issues. I think also sometimes what I noticed was that if there was a gunshot, a person has been shot, and then they call an ambulance, and then the person that will come will be an ECP because they have to get there. They get there first, they will have that higher stress because they are there first, and they are trying to assist sometimes with no backup of the crews, and the crews arrive and stuff like that. So and the responsibility of caring for the patient is higher because the person is an ECP. There's a higher level of expectation from them, and at times I found that I remember there was one who said they were an ECT, they just qualified, and they didn't know how to do certain things, yet they were expected to perform, which was a bit unfair on them because they couldn't perform at the time. So the higher qualifications you have, the higher demand there is from you.
Yeah, so just
Um,
to share a bit, sorry, Elias, just on this burnout issue is that it's said that people still getting burnout till today. And my research, my master's project was on the prevalence of burnout among emergency care providers, specifically in Gauteng, which focused at a specific private ambulance service. What I found was that obviously we had three-tier system where we've got BLS, ILS, and ALS. The ALS and the ILS were, sorry, the BLS, the basic life support, and the ALS were more bent out than the ILS. And when we looked at some of the reasons that we provided for BLSs, it was more on career progression. There's low salary, there's less opportunities for them. Whereas the ALS is the stuff that you've mentioned. You at a senior level, you're expected to be more accountable, knowledgeable. There's pressure from management, but also you have to deal with the smaller things than of managing the crews, and all of that combined would lead to burnout. But yeah, Elias, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I had a few questions with regards to your findings and the stuff. I mean, obviously, we covered sort of like being attacked is one of the things that are the main stresses, and I think there's few more. Like for instance, I'm reading one of the comments here that were coming from the colleagues, and they are saying that imagine you just arrive at the base and there's 10 calls that are waiting. You just arrive, you're just trying to put yourself together, and that is not stress off because you I don't know, because you are being attacked or anything like that. These are one would consider as minor stress, but you just come in, someone tells you just as you are dropping your bag, listen, there's 10 calls holding, and then your manager says, "Can you hurry, please? You started 5 minutes ago. You have to go on a job." These kinds of stress, like obviously, once you did this study, like were there means or ways to sort of like try and alleviate, and how did the crews actually feel about this? Besides obviously saying that we are stressed, was there a way to report it to say, guys, listen, at least give us 15 minutes so that during that 15 minutes, I calibrate myself and make sure that I'm ready for the next job?
All right. So I'll start here. So where Elias is reading a thesis, and you can actually find the thesis at the website of the university. If you type a thesis repository of Malusi Mtetwa, you will find my thesis somehow. Right. Let me start here. So my four themes that I found is the sources of stress. It was the stress from the organization, and then it was stress from, I'll say, workplace, and then it would be community-based stress, and there was also clinical stress. The organization would be the the support from the manager, and then the support. If I say something, I'm not gonna get assistance. I don't get my money. My overtime is not paid on time. I'm not supported. They're telling me I must work far from home. I need to drive 50 kilometers in the morning, 50 going home, petrol, and blah blah blah. Workplace stress. I can't get along with my mates here at work, and I'm forced to work with them, and they're not supporting me. And I need to mentor people. I don't want to meet people, and stuff like that. And then community-based stress is what we've spoken about, the violence and the community attacking the ambulance and stuff like that. The clinical-based stress will be the cases that make you feel frustrated when you're treating them, and sometimes you can't treat them adequately. Now, on the solutions for that was you're expected to go and tell your line manager, hey, I'm stressed about this, and you hope that you'll get assistance. Not really. You don't have solutions for that. I think systematic problems, for example, if there was a shortage of equipment, or if you have 10 calls, if they have that staff, I think possibly the way of changing the 10 calls at the time is that the night shift finishes their calls, or they have more staff that is working at night shift so that it continues, or you change the shift model so that the cases don't wait when there is a parade. So there can be a lot of strategies, but basically there is nothing. Basically the attitude that you find in general in this space, in that space, was must be tough, mate. Tough. You've got
Tough
10
enough.
jobs waiting, you have to do them, do the jobs. But the trick is that you have to do one job at a time, you know. That's what you can do. Can only I always say that even here, one job at a time, and you do the best of your ability, then you move to the next one. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can say that 10 pending, I can only do one. I'm one, and there's one person there, and they need to get the best of what they can get. I'm not sure if I answered you, Elias.
Yeah, I guess it does.
So we almost running out of time.
Always.
There's two things that I want to ask. Is that what stood out to you about the limitations of the employment wellness program, and how can these services be restructured to more accessible and trusted by EMS workers? And the reason why I'm asking you is because of in the previous episode or the first segment of this is that you mentioned that the support systems in Australia compared to what's happening in South Africa, probably also in other worlds of country, are different in a sense of I know in SA some emergency care providers they do declarations after declarations, declaration after declaration. You see that people and emotionally it takes its turmoil on you as a clinician, as a practitioner. I know for a fact that at some stage I had to refuse to go to declarations. That's the privilege that I had where I was working on my last job. I didn't want to, because the thing is, I worked clinicals on Fridays, but if you send me to declarations, I don't see patients. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But how do you think that, what are the limits, what stood out to you about the limitations, but also how can these services be restructured to be more accessible and trusted by EMS providers?
See, one of the goals that we have at the Para podcast is that we make research speak to what is happening out there. So this is the part where we look. I think one may assume that there's nothing that this organization did to assist these people. So they had a lot of stuff that was in place. One of them was the employment wellness program. So the employment wellness program has had a lot of stuff that was going on for them. So they had people that they called chaplains. So chaplains are people that come in if there's some crisis that has been seen. If there's a crisis, they come, an emotional crisis, they come and they talk to people and see how they can navigate that space. But one of the issues that was identified by one of the crews was that I'm not a Christian. A chaplain is a Christian. They'll be talking about the Bible, be using Bible based motivation. I'm in trouble here. You're talking about a religion that I do not believe in. What must I do now? And this is the best that you have. I don't think that's also fair to those people that do not believe in Christianity because you want to talk to something that talks to them. Um, I think also one of the issues that stood out for me was also the confidentiality part. I think that that was not well organized because I think one of them would say that they would be talking about cases that they've been to, and their friends would be people that were victims on that case, and they are talking about them as they are trying to address them. Now that part too, I think, is not fair because you don't trust the people that are there to assist you, and they are now not. Uh, you don't have
Permission.
confidence in them. You know, they're just gonna tell everyone about what they saw and what you told them. And even when you're talking to a manager about whatever, that you can't be certain that that was told in confidence and it's gonna stay between you and the manager. I think those are some of the issues that I found. Other people didn't know about the program, that there was a employment wellness
Wellness
program.
program.
So it means that that information didn't come to them. So I do guess at this point, when they watch the podcast, they'll see that there's an employee wellness program. Maybe the employee wellness program may have to come to the people and talk to them and see. I do know that they also mentioned that it does the good things, or that they organize soccer games, they'll be playing together, have braais and hang out. Those, and I'm not sure if they do awards, but they things like that they did. So there was positive and there was also not so positive things about the programs, and also the reaction. It wasn't clear how it's activated, so there will be some incidences that were overlooked. Uh, yeah, that were overlooked, and sometimes also if a person has an issue with the line manager. One of the participants had a personal issue with their line manager, such that it became a bit toxic, and they didn't know who to talk to after that, because that was more on the organizational side of things. So it's also not clear how do you manage those things, how do you override the manager and things like that.
Elias, do you want to say something before we close, or do you want to ask
No,
something?
it's just I think it informs, and I think it's very important that I think the profession in itself is very stressful, and I think people need to know where to go, and I think people need to feel supported. Some people just really do not know, and I think doing a research of this kind really informs people, and I think also just identifying stress while you are at it, because sometimes if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know, so you might be stressed, you might be burned out, but you actually don't know that you're burned out. And I think, you might feel that, you being attacked at jobs is just part of the job, but it's not. So thank you, Master Mtetwa. I hope you publish very soon so that it can inform the world at large.
So yeah, from my side, I think Melusi, this is stress and burnout and employee wellness programs are at the center of my heart. And one another thing is that your research is easy to read. It's clear. It's not like complicated. I enjoy research that is easy to read, and I've read your work before the podcast, and I just had to refresh before the podcast just in preparation. But keep shining. We welcome your research, and once you've published, you're more than welcome to discuss. I also feel that we didn't do justice to talk about because there's a lot more to unpack. But if people will still have more questions or they want to know, as you said, they can go to the DUT institutional repository to download their your work, and they can read more to find out what we were talking about. But yeah, from our side, the Para Podcast team, myself and Elias, we thank you for being part of us today. And to our followers, please subscribe. Follow us on our channels. We on X, we on LinkedIn, we on uh, Instagram, and also the big one, the TikTok for the young ones, the young Gen Zs. But
I
even
heard
the
you
others, they
guys.
enjoy.
I
The
heard you guys
youngins.
have a website too.
Yeah, definitely. We're shining on there. Check all our guests. There's a page there. If you want to be a guest, please go to our guests and then you'll find a link there. You fill out maybe 3 or 4 questions and then voila, we'll know that you want to be part of the podcast. And we'll get in touch and discuss what you have to offer.
Then what's the website? How
So
do I find the
it's
website?
it's www.parapodcast.online. That's it. www.parapodcast, one word, dot online. If you type that in, you should find us.
Oh, thank
Check
you.
out there's few blogs that they've written there on every guest that has attended and everything else that they've discussed. There's also a video section there that you can watch videos that will take you straight to our YouTube channel. And also it can also link you to our, I don't think it can, but soon it will. But yeah, just check it out. You'll see a lot of good things that we are doing there. And we are keen to chat to everyone, really. If you think you have a lot to offer, I just want to discuss something that you think we might have missed, please reach out and we'll chat to you.
All right, that's it from us. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot.